the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new episode. Don't forget, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm having a new interview, a new opinion piece, or some horror news for you to come and check out. So what are we talking about here tonight? Folks, coming up this Monday, January 13th, is the 30th anniversary of my favorite film of all time, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. And we are doing a lot of coverage in the world of Tales from the Crypt leading up to that big day where I'm going to drop my review of that fantastic film. You know, I've talked about growing up with Demon Knight and what that was like. I've also talked a little bit about the novelization of Demon Knight as well too. So tonight, what we're going to do instead is we're going to take a look at a couple of the episodes from the Tales from the Crypt TV show that had the stars of Demon Knight in them, because for those of y'all that don't know, both Bill Sadler and Billy Zane actually starred in 2 different episodes of Tales from the Crypt during its run. And I feel we would be remiss if we're going to talk about this fantastic film but not go back and talk a little bit about the TV show that this all came from in the first place. So strap in, y'all, as we're going to talk a couple episodes of Tales from the Crypt. The first episode we are going to discuss is actually the very first episode of the show. Based on the Crypt Teror number 17, this episode is The Man Who Was Deaf. The story of Niles Talbot, an executioner working at the local jail who loses his job due to the recent change in politics that looks to take the death penalty off of the table. Niles, feeling neglected and wasteful, decides that he will continue his job as an executioner even if the state is not there to back him up. And like an early version of America's favorite serial killer, Dexter Morgan, he begins a rampage taking out those who have skirted by the justice of the law. Now, Bill Sadler has had a long-standing relationship with Tales from the Crypt. Not only appearing here in the very first episode, he actually reprises his role as the Grim Reaper from Bill and Ted on another episode in the cold open where him and the Crypt Keeper are vying for control of the crypt. What's hilarious about that is that that scene would then be recreated in the Bordello of Blood film, where this time Bill Sadler was playing a mummy using the same exact dialogue from the show. So you take the fact that he's been involved in 2 of the movies, he's been involved in at least 2 episodes, and he was actually set to be the lead of a Tales from the Crypt spin-off show, Two-Fisted Tales. Bill Sadler has had Tales from the Crypt representation throughout quite a big chunk of its run. But this episode is a very fitting way to start the series, and especially when you take a look at it in comparison to Demon Knight, about this man who's responsible for bringing death to a number of people, and then ultimately playing a man who is on the run from literal death if he ever gets stopped and caught. Now, interestingly enough, comparing again his character Niles Talbot in this to like a Dexter Morgan, they both have the same goal, to where the whole idea is that they're going after individuals who escape the justice of the law, typically killers. So people have done these violent crimes, and he's doing it with the best of intentions. But we know, considering what we've talked about Dexter here on this show before, that best intentions and who you're taking out doesn't really change the fact that if you're going around murdering a lot of people, that you are a bit of a psychopath. And we begin to see with these murders, so far they always seem justified, or the first few seem very justified. They show the effects that these killers have had on society and why we might have a little sympathy for what Niles is doing here. But then with his very last victim, it kind of jumps a bit, because at that point we're supposed to be under the impression that, okay, Niles has completely slipped into becoming psychotic at this point. He's not thinking clearly, and even like the monologues that he's giving to the audience have grown more misogynistic, they've grown more deranged, and so it very much seems like this last kill is far different from the ones he's been carrying out over the course of this episode so far. And an interesting aspect about this is that Niles does spend most of the episode as the narrator, no matter the fact that he actually gets killed in it as well too. He spends this episode as the narrator for the audience. And when you go back and look at it, and you start thinking about Niles's more deranged state as the episode goes on and on, you have to wonder that even though this is likely Niles like his own inner monologue, kind of like Dexter's Dark Passenger, we just happen to be the ones who are able to see it and hear it. you have to wonder if this is also a part of Niles' psychoses, that he's talking to himself while he's out and about and like doing all these different things, and maybe all these other people are noticing like, hey, what's that weirdo over there doing?
Also, in a very cool bit of trivia, Walter Hill, 48 Hours, The Warriors, Alien 3, Walter Hill wrote and directed this episode too, the first episode of Tales from the Crypt.
It's a very, very strong episode and a great way to start this show off. Interestingly enough, the cold open here with our Crypt Keeper doesn't actually introduce the name of this story, which would be a trademark a little bit later on here. And we also get the same "that's entertainment" pun that's referenced in Demon Knight as well too.
With nobler ambitions, he likes to kill human pests, and he does it in front of an audience. Now that's entertainment.
You know, I asked for final cut, and I got it. Now that's entertainment.
So there's a few things being cherry picked out of this that went on to be utilized again in the Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight film. Now, there isn't so much in the way of blood and gore in this first episode, a trademark that we would get across a number of Tales from the Crypt episodes, but you have to keep in mind as well that this executioner that Bill Sadler is playing does go around electrocuting people, so at the same time, it still isn't the easiest watch, depending on your opinion, of capital punishment. So, something to keep in mind there with that one, but that's our first episode. Our next one that we're going to be looking into is based off Tales from the Crypt number 27, the season 5 episode Well Cooked Ham, that tells the story of a failed magician looking for the right hook for his act, and after stealing a trick from another local magician, finds that he himself might be over his head when it comes to pulling a rabbit out of his hat. Now, Well Cooked Ham stars Billy Zane, who of course starred as the Collector in Demon Knight, and also features Martin Sheen in a supporting role. And it just goes to the fact that we know that Billy Zane played so many good villainous characters back in the 90s, just because this character goes right in line with a number of the roles that we've seen him in that time frame. You know, this magician Miles that he plays wants success so badly and is willing to do anything, including murder, in order to find that success. But of course, in the long game here, Miles is being set up because it's been said that he's already murdered a previous magician, a previous mentor who sought to teach him some of his tricks, and Miles, of course, being the jealous one who needed it all for himself, murdered this magician in cold blood to steal his act, and it looks to be something that he has to do over and over and over to retain any kind of respect, any kind of notability here, is to take other people's act when he can't work it out for himself. And it is very interesting because the various characters, because Martin Sheen, the whole gag is that he shows up as numerous characters over this episode, including another magician, gives Billy Zane's character another chance to kind of do it the right way, and he still chooses wrong with the new opportunity that's presented to him. And it's a very big contrast from, you know, the first episode of the show, just because in this particular episode here, it's a lot bloodier and more gruesome than what we've been used to. You know, folks get stabbed numerous times. There's some acid involved in this episode as well. By the 5th season, we were really running on all cylinders at that point and getting way more in terms of gore featured in these episodes. And not only that, but it just goes to show you the star power that Crypt would also attract as well. Because
Andrew Kevin Walker, you know, the guy that wrote 7, 8 millimeters, Sleepy Hollow, The Wolfman, he actually wrote this episode too.
Also, season 5 happens to be my favorite season of the show. There's some really good episodes in that one, including Death of Some Salesmen, Forever Ambergris, People Who Live in Brass Hearses. Absolutely recommend checking that particular season out. But it's very cool to see that our two leads of Demon Knight both were able to make appearances in the Tales from the Crypt TV show before, because it shows that they have an affinity, obviously, for the brand, for the product, and know how fun it is to take part in one of these productions. Very cool for the fact to see him in a couple episodes and showing up here in Demon Knight, and in Bill Sadler's case, also Bordello of Blood. I tell you to go check it out on streaming, but y'all know the deal with Tales from the Crypt, that those streaming rights are impossible. Instead, you'd have to find a physical copy in order to actually check these out, but I still recommend doing that as well too. So that's going to do it for me tonight here, folks. I appreciate you checking out some more coverage here as we lead up to the 30th anniversary of Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. Don't forget to get subscribed to all my channels in order to stay up with all the content that I'm dropping for y'all. The best way to do that is to get access to my link tree, which you can access as linktr.ee/tscarymovie. If you get subscribed to my link tree, that's going to be access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platform for the audio only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my Twitch page for my horror gaming, to my TikTok for my short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, and my Fangoria shop page. You can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of all that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button, as the more followers I get, more content I can put out for all of you. Stay tuned for more Demon Knight coverage, folks, but that's it tonight. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.